How's it going? My nickname that I use for my videos is Jumpy. Today, eventually, I'm going to review Novocaine, which is a 2025 action movie starring Jack Quaid. But before I do that, I want to briefly talk about Companion, which I watched and only referenced once before in one of my videos. It's another Jack Quaid movie that was also released in 2025. It does something similar to They Will Kill You and Abigail, in which the movie has a really interesting reveal that changes things dramatically, and it happens far enough into the film that I don't want to talk about it without giving a heads up first. Mild spoilers ahead for something that happens 25 minutes into Companion. Everything I'm going to say is revealed in the trailer and the Fandango plot synopsis. I liked it overall, and going into it knowing that she's a robot didn't hurt my enjoyment. My only real criticism is that I think some of the humor is lazy and didn't land for me. The movie is predictable, which isn't a negative for me, just an observation. As far as other recent robot movies go, I like Megan 2.0 a lot more. But the main actress, Sophie Thatcher, was pretty good, and I still had fun watching Companion despite it not being anything too special. I would call this light entertainment, and I'd recommend it if you're in the mood for something you can just throw on. I also want to say that I watched another movie called Becky not too long afterwards, and it was alright. As far as a person running around and killing people in the woods movies go, I liked Companion more. Since Novocaine is an action movie, I want to quickly talk about a few other action movies I've seen and haven't gotten the chance to talk about in a video. I saw Atomic Blonde, which was pretty great. I really liked the action scenes. I also watched Salt starring Angelina Jolie, which has the same writer as The Beekeeper and the same director as The Bone Collector, also starring Angelina Jolie. I enjoyed this one a lot too, especially some of its little moments. For example, there was a scene where she covers up a camera with her underwear, and the guy watching it is so upset. There's also this impressively well-behaved dog that's left alone with a sandwich and doesn't eat it. I like that dog. And there's a part where she shoots a church organ, and this other woman holds her ears like, "Ah, make this horrible noise stop." Check it out. Speaking of movies with people who are in The Bone Collector, I watched the first Equalizer film with Denzel Washington. He gives out so much dietary advice that the movie should be called The Nutritionist. But I enjoyed the hell out of this one. Denzel, always a pleasure. One of my favorite parts is when he just puts a murder weapon back at the store where he works for someone else to buy. I also watched the second one. I thought it was a little unfocused and could be edited down. And I'm aware that that criticism applies to this Novocaine review video I'm doing. But, like in Equalizer 2, there's an old man that has nothing to do with anything else. It felt like it took too long to get to the actual main plot. Shut it. Which is something that I didn't get from the first movie. I still liked it, and I'll watch the third one sometime. Another movie I saw was Furiosa, starring Anger Taylor-Joy. I really loved some of the weird shit in it, and I want to go back and watch it again. Right now, it's the only Mad Max movie I finished. A long time ago, I started watching Fury Road, but I wasn't in the mood, and I really don't like Tom Hardy as an actor. But fuck, at some point, I plan to watch the entire series, including the Mel Gibson ones, who of course I don't like as a person, because I enjoyed the filmmaking and creativity in Furiosa enough. I had been meaning to see the John Wick series for a long time, and I finally got around to watching the 4 mainline movies. They're incredibly entertaining. The action scenes and the world they created are awesome, and I love their sense of humor. I haven't seen the spin-off movie Ballerina yet, but I'm looking forward to it. One thing I saw and didn't like very much was Love Hurts. It stars Ke Huy Quan. I like him, and he was fine in it. Some of the action scenes where he's kicking ass are fun enough, but everything else fell flat for me. The characters, the story, the humor, and the attempts at being cool with the visuals. It wasn't hard to sit through, and it was short. I just really wish I enjoyed it more. And one last one. I rewatched Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines earlier this week. Obviously, it's not as good as Terminator 1 or Terminator 2, but I really like this movie. Some of the CGI doesn't look great, but there's a lot of destruction and fun action, and it's funny too. They keep mentioning a guy named Mike Kripke, and every time they do, I wanted to call him Mike Kripke Per, so I'm doing it now. Alright, kiddies. Now that I've talked about all those other murderous, miscellaneous movie monstrosities, the only thing that human remains is the Novocaine review. This one is about Nathan Kane, played by Jack Quaid. Christmas is coming up. He's an assistant manager at a credit union in San Diego. My first thought was, and yours too should have been, oh no, that's where the T-Rex got loose in the Lost World. But I didn't see any running around in Novocaine, so the city seems to be doing alright in that regard. Nate seems to like a woman named Sherry who also works there. She's played by Amber Midthunder from Prey, which I also watched and enjoyed. Nate meets with a customer named Earl, who lost his wife after being married for 50 years. Nate does what he can to help the guy in a bad situation to give him an extension, which is dutiful. Earl also says that his wife made his life better. Afterwards, when Nate is pouring hot coffee in the break room, Sherry shows up and taps him on the shoulder, and he pours some coffee on his hand and sleeve. He doesn't seem affected by the pain and puts some cream on it back in his office. She invites him out to lunch, and Nate accepts when he's reminded of Earl and his wife. At a restaurant, when she orders him some pie, Nate refuses and reveals that he can't eat it or any other solids because he has a genetic disorder and can't feel pain. He doesn't want to risk biting off his tongue. It was a nice touch at the beginning of the movie, showing him blending his breakfast. She asks him again because the pie is so good and assures him it'll be okay. And then she feeds it to him, and he loves it. It's a funny moment, and I'll excuse that it's questionable that she didn't just accept what he said and drop it, because it's a movie. They hit it off, and she asks him out for that night. He's hesitant again at first, like he was about lunch, but he goes and meets her. I like their scenes together here. They're sweet and fun, and I was getting invested in seeing the start of their romance. Things do move quickly, but again, it's a movie, so I'll go with it because we need to get to the conflict. The next day, on Christmas Eve, some armed robbers in Santa costumes show up to the credit union. They kill the manager, force Nate to give them the combination, and they take Sherry as a hostage because she got their attention earlier, telling them to stop hurting Nate. They shoot all the cops, killing or incapacitating them, and drive off. Nate walks out and hears that it'll be 8 minutes until anyone else will arrive. So he picks up a gun off the ground and steals a police car to go after the bank robbers and save Sherry because he thinks he's the only one who can. He has the help of his online friend that he's never met in person. And there are a couple detectives on the case, one of which is played by Betty Gabriel from Get Out. I enjoyed the hell out of Novocaine. The action scenes are very fun. You get car chases, you get close-range combat. Nate gets beat up and is apologetic when he has to hurt others, which I love. His character is likable, and it's great seeing him in this scenario. There are clever moments with how Nate can use not feeling pain to his advantage. The movie is incredibly violent with a few pretty graphic moments. There's also some suspense a few times, like when Nate meets a tattoo artist and is trying to get some information about one of the robbers and pretends that he knows more than he really does. Not amazing or the most sustained moments, but I thought, oh no! And because I was actually engaged watching the movie and got into it. Not just because I remembered Jurassic Park 2. I laughed out loud multiple times at either the gags or the dialogue. I like this movie's sense of humor more than Companions. Acting was pretty solid all around, especially Quaid. I always thought he was believable, but like during the robbery, I totally bought that he was in danger and worried about Sherry. I really like this one. It's entertaining throughout, hilarious at times, has clever action scenes, it takes some fun turns, and I cared about the romance. I'm giving Novocaine a 7 out of 10, and I definitely recommend it. Thank you so much for watching.